Man, I have a fully 3D model Minecraft bow, and I'm shooting 3D arrows at goblins. What more can you want?
Battle Talent is still my favorite fantasy fighter VR game, which is unfortunate because it still hurts me. Every time I open it, I have to make sure my medicine drawer is stocked with Advil and there's an ice pack at the ready because I will be sore for the next 2 weeks after playing for an hour. I made a small video talking about Battle Talent something like half a year ago, and since then many people have been clamoring I make another. I agree. I completely forgot to talk about so many parts of this game, it's honestly criminal. Also, the developers at Sidedream have been busy. 3 major updates full of content and refinements to the game, and a multitude of smaller updates and patches is nothing short of insane, especially for how small the team is. Overall, the structure of the entire game has changed. Before, it was sort of one linear mode with the challenges, dungeons, and sandbox all in one area, and to be honest, it got confusing to me at times. Now when you boot up Battle Talent, you're greeted with 4 options: sandbox, adventure, challenge, and a secret 4th one. Sandbox has received some massive changes for the better. The new arena is gorgeous and huge, way better than the walk-in closet that was used before. It also gives full access to every weapon and level in the game, as well as the ability to use the cheat menu without going through that really confusing puzzle to unlock the damn thing. The cheat menu itself has also been refined. I still find menus in VR to be bothersome, but that's a me problem. And as far as they go, these menus work pretty well. I really like how they follow your vision for a second before locking into place so you can get an optimal viewing position. It's also really cool how you can make the menu close by looking away for a couple seconds. That's my favorite way of closing them. I highly appreciate Sandbox now having all weapons available and not tying it to the adventure unlocks. This has allowed me to discover and experiment with the pages of awesome and unique weapons.
Alright, so I need to... Dude.
And what's crazy is they keep adding more. And on top of that, with the countless mod weapons, there's something in here for everybody. I've often talked about mods and modding communities and my love for them, but I always just mention them as a sort of afterthought when I talk about games. But not today. Battle Talent boasts a really seamless and highly polished in-game mod menu and has a surprisingly high tolerance for heavy modding. Every mod I have installed, I downloaded while in-game, and the only time the game broke was the first time I tried using a mod weapon after the download frenzy I had. After that, no crashes, no significant lag, nothing. Occasionally a mod itself will break, but they never break hard enough to affect the rest of the game, at least for me. The download frenzy is not an exaggeration. I went crazy, downloading every mod I thought looked tangentially cool. As a result, I now have 3 trillion swords from many IPs, a small army's worth of firearms, and a few specialty items. It is really great seeing such a dedicated modding community, especially for a game this small. And the mods aren't limited to just weapons. Battle Talent has modding support for custom spells, player skins, NPCs, levels, and even in-game music. As I said, the dedication of these mod makers is nothing short of amazing. Adventure mode is a slightly reworked version of the original gameplay setup. You have worlds broken up into individual arenas and challenge maps selected through this menu. The only difference I can discern is that the longer dungeon crawly sections have been removed and turned into the new challenge mode, which I'll talk about in a sec. Adventure mode is still the primary source of progression. Completing challenges and arenas gives you experience and weapon unlocks to use in the challenge mode. The power-ups and upgrades have been expanded, adding new things like an air dash and air stomp. Speaking of power-ups, Battle Talent has a hugely unique combat ability that I completely forgot to mention in my first video. Okay, not entirely unique, as it's essentially the Devil May Cry air combat thingy, but it's unique for VR sword fighters. While I can't get it to work consistently, the air combos in this game are easily the most satisfying thing you can do. It's also crazy overpowered, as you can stun lock the enemy to death if you're good enough. Anyway, I really like this major change as well. I hit a massive wall in progression when I first played Battle Talent because I could not get past the final dungeon of one of the level blocks. Now the final level in a world is typically an amped up arena or a one-on-one boss fight, which still offer tough challenges, but aren't grueling and an hour long. And now for the most significant change to the structure of Battle Talent, the challenge mode. Like I said, the dungeon crawler sections that used to be a part of the adventure have been removed and revamped into this long roguelite mode. When I made my first Battle Talent video, I complained about the lack of checkpoints in the dungeon areas, as I was/am really bad at the game and die consistently before I can finish a dungeon. Before we get into the details, I want to make two things clear. 1. In the new challenge mode, there is a checkpoint system, though not for dying, just saving progress for, say, closing the game. And 2. When I talked about the lack of checkpoints previously, it was before I had become hopelessly addicted to dead cells and had finally seen the roguelite light. Because make no mistake, the Battle Talent Challenge mode is very much a roguelite, and damn is it brutal. It has all the hallmarks: randomly generated dungeons, loot and enemy placements, hard as hell bosses, an in-run currency system, and of course, total reset on death. Of course, health and mana upgrades, weapons and skills, all unlocked in Adventure, are persistent, hence light and not like. The first significant change you'll notice from how the dungeons were handled before is the length. Challenge is a very long experience, taking you on a journey through the 3 major biomes. After each biome, you get a checkpoint that saves your progress so you can take a typically much needed break. Overall, the room to room is the same. The dungeons are built up of arena rooms and connection hallways. Shocker, I know. The halls have the occasional enemy or two and sometimes traps, and can get a little maze-like at times. Thankfully, there is a minimap connected to your left hand to help with the borderline confusing hallways. But the interesting aspect is the little arenas themselves. This wasn't a change over what used to be, but I did completely forget to talk about them in my previous video. When you walk into an arena room, the doors close and lock you in, spawning a few waves of enemies that must be defeated in order to progress. Each room has some sort of effect, whether it be something like doubling melee damage or easier to amputate. The enemies that appear stick to the theme of the biome you're in: goblins for biome 1, skeletons for biome 2, with the exception of the sky biome, which is where human enemies start to spawn. In this biome, goblin and skeleton enemies will also spawn, and all 3 types will fight with each other. It is absolutely fucking awesome to walk into an arena and immediately be surrounded by a war zone. It also helps with the overall difficulty because damn are there a lot of things to fight. I also totally blanked on discussing this, but the enemy and creature design is phenomenal. The many variations of goblins and skeletons are great, along with these terrifying Grim Reaper looking shitheads, all the way to actual robots. I actually didn't even realize there were human enemies until recently when I finally beat that goddamn Beyblade giant and moved on to the sky biome. As experience is now primarily gained in the adventure mode, breaking pots and killing enemies within the dungeons now gives souls, the in-run currency.
Break. I love breaking pots.
The souls can be spent at these little shop things that pull various weapons from your unlocked pool, or this absolutely rigged ass pinball/plinko machine thing. I swear, out of the 20 times I used these over the couple runs I did, the ball landed in the exact same failure slot 15 times.
Just give a little souls to pull the lever and you may get a great surprise. Oh, that's so cool. Oh shit, is that gonna spawn an enemy? They're good, mostly. Oh, come on. Are you shitting me? It keeps going in the exact same spot. This game is rigged. It's the same one again. Am I doing something wrong here?
Do you want to know the odds of a ball landing in the exact same slot out of 9 available slots 5 times in a row? Let me put it this way. If I roll a D9 5 times, the chances of rolling 5 ones in a row is 0.000169351. That is an insanely low number. And yet, it happened. Rigged. But it's still fun, so who cares? If you're hurting for extra souls, you can also recycle weapons for a small payout. So make sure you keep track of all the weapons from your slain foes. What this game really needs is a backpack for all the loot goblins like me to hoard every shitty sword I collect from the butchered corpses of my opposition. Previously, I talked about objects called curse altars, which were optional upgrades that gave both a buff and a debuff. In the current version of Challenge, at least at the difficulty level I played at, these were all replaced with bless altars. Instead of giving a single effect with a positive and a negative, The Bless Altar gives 3 options for some really quite powerful buffs. My favorite, of course, is the Life-Stealing Bless. Regenerating health on melee hits is absolutely my jam because I cannot avoid taking damage to save my life. Also, I think some of the boss fights might need a bit of a rework, or I just need a rework, because holy god, some of these fights are frustrating. And some arenas just go on for way too long. This damn skeleton room ate away like 30 minutes of my life because it just kept spawning more enemies. Luckily, it was here that I discovered the wonderful method of shield bashing and weapon throwing, and worked to refine these skills. I should mention, the weapon throwing and returning in Battle Talent is downright amazing. Unlike other games I've played that have a distance grab mechanic, Battle Talent plays a bit more fast and loose with the precision and range of its own grab, especially with thrown weapons. When you throw a weapon, say a sword, there is what feels like a large bubble that you can generally point your hand at that will call the sword back very easily. I spent like 15 minutes at least just playing fetch with myself and experimenting with how precise I had to be to recall a weapon I threw, because it's just so much fun. In other games like Blade and Sorcery or Boneworks, it is an incredibly precise maneuver, almost like using a force pull. But here, it's more akin to Thor calling Mjolnir. I cannot describe the power I feel when I throw a sword, stick my hand out vaguely, close my fist, and have the sword rocket back to my hand while also dodging minor obstacles and performing course corrections midair. It is so cool. There were also some minor issues that I had with Battle Talent previously, both mentioned and forgotten, that have been fixed or seemingly adjusted in the updates since my last video. If you have an index like me and struggle to play the game, there was a recent patch that completely and entirely fixes index knuckle support, and they work perfectly now. A major issue I had that I totally forgot to bring up was the jumping mechanic. In Battle Talent, to jump high, you have to swing your arms up as you press the button to simulate upward momentum. Really cool in theory, but damn was it ever broken before. I could not consistently get my jumps to work, and I died in many a dungeon to failing a jump over and over again. As for now, it seems to be better. I may be placeboing myself, but jumping feels a lot more forgiving on how hard I have to swing my arms. However, as I've continued to play, I do have some new issues and criticisms I feel I should bring up in the spirit of fairness. First of all, as cool as the gun models have become, and of course how sweet it is to fill a goblin with hot lead, the guns overall just feel weak. The shotgun in particular is just lackluster. I have to get lucky for a point-blank headshot to kill an enemy, which for a slow-firing pump-action shotgun that uses a shit ton of mana to fire once is disappointing to say the least. The crossbows, on the other hand, feel much more powerful and useful. That said, in the challenge dungeon, ranged weapons in general just don't feel viable. The enemy AI is so incredibly aggressive, especially for bosses, that using a ranged weapon is just asking for a run failure or a broken weapon, which just sucks because there are so many absolutely awesome ranged weapons in this game. Maybe it's a skill issue on my part. I'm fully willing to accept it if that's the case. If I'm missing something, yell at me in the comments or something. Everything else that I struggle with, I know is 100% on me and is just a sign I need to play more to get better at the game. Overall, I mean it. Battle Talent really is just that good. It's hard as hell, but damn does it just have that style and spectacle that I love out of gaming. It feels like Rule of Cool, the VR game at times, and I just adore it. And yes, I did see the comments before telling me to try Grimlord and Hellsplit. They're on my list, and I'm very much looking forward to trying them out as well, though it might be a bit as I currently have about 5 other videos in progress as of finishing this video. But I think with that, I've said my piece. I'll definitely keep an eye out for any updates, and if there's any super major stuff, maybe I'll throw another short video on it out there. In the meantime, I'll likely stream the game every so often or so, maybe doing some challenge runs, I don't know yet. I stream about 2 to 3 times a week over on Twitch now, playing a variety of games. Just the other day, I tried out the new VR mech fighter Underdogs, which was fucking awesome, and there will be a video on that soon. But that's all the time I have today. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.